Good morning and welcome to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from our Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's a Friday edition, Memorial Day weekend. Hope everyone has a great weekend and Memorial Day. Got a good show lined up for you today. We're going to kick off the show here shortly with Jamie Speronis, the Director of Football Ops for Coach Steve Spurrier for 20 plus years. And hang on, Jamie just texted me. And then in the second portion of the program, we're going to have Jackie Spreads with his buddy who's a journalist out on the West Coast. Jackson Raymer will join the program. Some news and notes. Obviously, we're going to have a little bit of sports to watch this weekend. We're going to have the big golf match with Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning versus Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady at the Medalist down in South Florida. Should be really fun to watch. I want to say the front nine, they're going to play, everybody plays their own ball. And then on the back nine, I believe it's going to be alternating shots. So that should be a very interesting deal to watch. Gives us something else to watch. There's nothing going on right now in sports, but it looks like things are very positive moving forward with college football and professional sports. So looking forward to it. Next week, we have a great lineup as well. You can check that out on our Facebook Live page. Don't forget to go like and follow us. You can also check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You can always go back on any of those applications and watch previous shows, a lot of the great guests that we have had. And that's about it. But we're going to go here in just a second. We're going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined by Jamie Speronis, the Director of Football Ops for 20 plus years for Coach Steve Spurrier. Good morning, Jamie. How are you?
Good morning, dude. What's going on?
Not a whole lot, my man. We just, with no sports, it's rough to live. I ain't going to lie. What's Jamie Speronis and his family doing during this quarantine?
Well, let's see. I've been doing plenty of I've got a high school senior graduating and I've got a sixth grader graduating. So I've been doing a lot of the Zooms. I'm a Zoom veteran now.
No doubt about it.
Hopefully my kids have been able to overcome my inability to teach. I learned one thing: teaching's not my future.
No, not at all. Well, Jamie, you worked with Coach Spurrier for a long time, but let's go back. Before you were at the University of Florida, you graduated from the University of Florida, and then you were like a graduate assistant. You worked a little bit in the weight room under Galen Hall. Talk a little bit about why you wanted to get into, the football arena.
I was sort of fortunate that there was even an opening in the weight room. When I transferred in there back in '82, actually, I got a job. Rich Tootin was the strength coach. Got an opportunity with him, and he was very kind and gave me that opportunity. And really, Coach Hall gave me my start. Galen gave me a chance to be a graduate assistant, do a little bit of everything. That was back when graduate assistants weren't doing anything other than breaking down film and getting coffee and running errands. So, and of course, at the end of the day, all of this is due to Coach Spurrier and Jerry and all that they've done for me. Coach Spurrier giving me the opportunity, taking me from a graduate assistant and letting me handle his administrative stuff and really opening the door. I was really one of the first directors of football in the country.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that, but I'm curious, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners would be interested, as you were as a graduate assistant under Galen, and then when Coach Spurrier comes in, had you ever met Coach Spurrier before he got the job? And also, what were the similarities and the differences between how each ran their program?
I met Coach Spurrier one time. I was doing my internship at Tampa Stadium when he was coaching the Bandits, and I'm quite certain he doesn't remember any of it. You know how that goes. But the Bandits were playing Birmingham big old downpour rain, and we had to delay it. So they sent me in to go talk to Coach Spurrier about the rain, and I was scared to death about interrupting the coach. And he didn't care. He was fine. He's like, all right, we'll play whenever we can play. I went over to see Raleigh Dodge in Birmingham and told him he'd have to sit back and wait. And he tore me a pretty good one. So that was my experience with different coaching. Coach Hall and Coach Spurrier were similar in that it was never – he tried never to get to the ball player get stressed. Try to play relaxed. Try to be loose. Try to enjoy the moment. Enjoy what you're doing. Coach, as you know, one a real stickler for the details of it. He just wanted to get things done. Practice schedule sometimes was written on the back of a napkin, and off we went. But Galen really gave me a heck of an opportunity to get involved and learn about football. And of course, Coach Spurrier pretty much gave me everything.
When you look back, you didn't become like the director of football ops until like year 3 or 4 that Coach Spurrier was here. What was your role before he basically promoted you to that job?
As a graduate assistant, senior administrative assistant, sort of the same thing, just a graduate assistant, helped with the recruiting, did a lot with recruiting. Back then, it wasn't a staff of 20, 30 people. There was a staff of 2. Did a lot of that, did a lot of the administrative. Coach Spurrier's schedule. He was kind enough to, what was important to him was coaching ball, and he didn't want to worry about whether whether we had a hotel rooming list or whether the itinerary was done or where we were going, or that wasn't as important as being a head ball coach. So I was fortunate enough to get those kind of assignments. I was running the walk-on program. So that was a lot of fun. A lot of the guys that you've had on your show, I heard you talk with Shane and Judd. And of course, Judd was one of my prize walk-ons. And Andy Staples was writing with The Athletic. He used to write with Sports Illustrated. He was a part of it. Heck, Chris Doran started with us. So, it was quite a run. And then, of course, I got to hang out with Coach a bunch and drive him around and do a lot of great things.
Yeah, we're speaking with Jamie Speronis, who is director of football ops for Coach Spurrier for 20-something years, basically his right-hand man. Let everybody know, as like director of football ops, you were in charge of, setting up, the hotels that we stayed at, basically what we had for our buffets, what movies we went to. Just briefly talk about that, because I don't think people understand. And I think travel has changed a little bit now, or maybe it hasn't. I just don't feel like teams go to movies and things like that.
I think you're right. I think the days of movies are over. Coach was a huge fan of going to the movies. And as you well know, being a captain, I tried to give a couple of choices and let the captains pick. If the movie ended up bombing, still you guys would get on the bus and go, "Hey, nice call, Jamie. Great movie." That was really a beauty. And God help us if we got a good one. If we got a good one, Coach might let us see it 2 or 3 times. When we were at Carolina, we saw Secretariat 3 weeks in a row.
Wow.
Of course, we won all 3 weeks, so that's you know how that is. But you're right. Football ops it was a little bit of everything back then, and you're right. We did the travel, and we didn't have a nutritionist, so I got with Chris Patrick, our trainer, and our strength coach, whoever it was at the time. And we planned menus and we worked, put that together. But I built up a travel manual and we stuck with that. And, then there was the preseason practice, putting all that together. And there were a lot of moving parts back in the 90s with Florida. There wasn't, there was still Yon Hall, and there was, the training table was there, and rules were different. And, now also, hopefully it's going to be one-stop shop pretty soon for the Gators, and it is at a lot of other places. It was a little bit of everything. You were the liaison to all different departments, whether it was compliance, academics, equipment, and you wore several hats. It was a great opportunity.
Yeah, let's talk about, in your 12 years here at Florida with Coach Spurrier, he wins 7 SEC titles, 1 national title, and y'all did a lot of celebrating after games at Napolitano's. Tell us about that one story. I think it's correct. Jamie Speronis somehow left one of the trophies in the restaurant. Is that true?
One thing that happens over the years, and depending on who you talk to, it flows downhill. I did not leave the trophy at Napolitano's. Yes, it was left at Napolitano's. I believe that was after actually 96. And we had a graduate assistant coach who had a very similar name to our head coach. And
it just had junior on the end.
You just had a little junior on the end. I kind of like to think by now my responsibility wasn't just making sure the trophy left Napolitano's. But we got back a little bit late and got in there, and Dino was great to let us in and celebrate a little bit. It wasn't a very long one, but it was a great celebration. And we were back at work first thing in the morning Sunday, and I got a call from Dino, and he said, "Hey, somebody never made it out of here last night." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, he's really, really, really short, kind of heavy, looks bronze, and he's got a bunch of wood on it." And I'm like, "Oh Lord, we left the trophy in there." That was Steve Jr.'s call right there. He needs to step up and take I can't get blamed for everything there.
So, Jamie, what would you say in the 12 years here, what was probably the toughest loss that you saw that Coach Spurrier took personally? He's such a competitor and we all hate losing, but sometimes certain games really wear on you. Was there one game that stood out that you saw that really bothered him?
Probably the last one, losing to Tennessee, then 9/11, we had a great team. We really did. And, the Tennessee game ended up being on the back end of the schedule. And, obviously didn't go well. I think it was Stevens, a running back from Tennessee, just went up and down the field. We lost the game. Tennessee celebrated probably for the whole week and got clobbered by LSU the next week, which was a team that we beat by about 40 points earlier in the season. So that was a tough one, and what turned out to be our last game in the Swamp.
At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Come in and experience the Center State difference. To learn more, visit centerstatebank.com, Center State Bank, member FDIC. Jamie, we're going to take a quick time out here to pay some bills. Hang on, we're going to come back. We're speaking with Jamie Speronis on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to come back and tell some good old HBC stories. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, and Davis Chevrolet.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Medici's, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. We're on the Titan MR hotline with Jamie Speronis, former Director of Football Ops for the head ball coach. Jamie, you going to be doing any celebrating at the HBC's place?
I've got to. Got to. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing Coach behind the grill making something happen back there.
No doubt. Well, Jamie, let's talk about what was your favorite road trip to prepare for when we went on the road in the SEC?
Favorite one, probably because we were so dang good, was Jacksonville. You know, just and I think that's what makes being a Gator so special. You got to want to get on that bus and drive through all those towns and work your way to Jacksonville. It's got to mean something to you. And sometimes, you know, those out-of-state people just don't get what it means. But anyway, to get back to it, you know, originally, you know, it was near the Jacksonville airport, but then we got to stay at Ponte Vedra, and it was just nothing but first class. There's one thing about the Gators: you're going to do things from the first class way, and just the whole excitement about the stadium being half Florida, half Georgia, and just the whole pageantry of it, if you will. It's really like nothing else.
Talk a little bit about where you were and when you found out after that Orange Bowl victory, when Coach Spurrier decided, you know what, I'm going to try the National Football League. What were your thoughts when you got the news?
It was really interesting. Obviously, after the Orange Bowl, we're driving back. My wife's about 8 months pregnant with our first one, Connor. And I said, you know, Coach was a little different after the game. You know, I don't know that meant that I had any insight or not. I won't give myself that kind of credit. But I said he was just really different. He really hit home, and he talked a lot longer than he usually does. Well, we didn't think anything of it. We were just moving into our brand new home. He had just bought one earlier in the season. So, you know, there's always rumors of him leaving, but I didn't think anything of it. And literally, Christy and I got back from the bank after we signed the papers. I went to the office. She went home to rest. I think she went to Napolitano's for lunch, and Coach called me, and he said he had made his decision, and it was time to go and pursue the NFL. And he said, I hope somebody calls me. And he said, but right now, you know, it's just time to go. And I'm like, time to go where? And he's like, Jamie, I'm leaving the University of Florida. I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, I'm about to call Christy, and then the phone rings, and it's her, and she said, I'm watching ESPN at Dino's, and it's scrolling across the screen. Coach Spurrier stepped down. I said, yes, he has. So about a day or two later, I guess a day or two later, I went over to the house to talk to him, and we were just talking, and whatever opportunity might come up. He didn't know really at the time. It happened quickly thereafter, and I said, well, Coach, listen, I hope there's a spot for me. And he said, you want to come? And I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. Heck yeah, I want to come. And I'm thinking to myself after I left, I said, goodness, if I didn't go over there and say, hey, I'd like to come, I might still be looking for work.
Yeah. So out of all the years with Coach Spurrier, everyone knows he was an avid golfer, and you were very fortunate to get to play a lot of great golf courses. What would you say the best golf course y'all had a chance to play together?
Together. It's funny. Probably Pebble Spiegel. Coach let me tag along. I was one of the great tag-alongs of our era. But I got to go to Pebble, Spyglass, Spanish Bay.
So you played in the coach's little golf tournament.
The tournament. Yeah. That's right. You played in a bunch of those.
Yeah.
And the day before, we were with Washington at the time, but the day before we had a chance to play Cypress Point.
Yep, I got that same little trip as well. It was awesome. Very awesome.
I mean, a place where you're hitting your tee ball on number one, and there are deer out in the fairway, and you finish with seals barking at you out on the in the bay, just like nothing you'd ever know. But unfortunately, he couldn't make that trip. He had to come out later that day. So I said, well, I'll stay here. He goes, Jamie, you will never get to play Cypress Point. You're going. So I went out ahead, and he was right. But, so many golf courses, and got to meet Arnold Palmer one time, and all the courses during the Gator clubs, just special time.
Jamie, we got about 5 or 6 more minutes here, and we appreciate you joining the program here. You got to have some great Steve Spurrier stories all the years. You got any good ones that you can tell all our listeners?
I could tell a few. I want to keep my friendship in place, or save him for his book or whatever. First one I wanted to start with, I didn't want to forget, was you saving me. And you don't probably want to enjoy hearing the story, but it was the only Thursday night game the Gators have ever played. We go to Mississippi State. I think you're on about your 5th interception at the time, and you're jogging off and you're running straight at me, and you're like, dude, if the head ball coach lets me stay out there one more time, maybe I can break John Bob's record. And you remember John Reeves, and I don't know if he still holds it, but bless his heart, he's got the all-time interception record in a game.
Yeah, 9 against Auburn.
Yeah, so I started laughing. So, of course, we get back, and Friday morning, I come in. And, I'm just like you said, I'm just at that entry of being a senior assistant and director of football. I'm right at that, trying to find my way. And Coach said, hey, Jamie, come on in here. He's got the TV on, and there's a VC of the game being replayed. And he said, yeah. It's bad enough we played like lost a game and, embarrassed ourselves. But then I got my buddies telling me that our coaches are laughing on the sidelines. So he's got that thing queued up, and he said, what do you think about this? And he plays it, and sure enough, your back is to the camera. So all you can see is my face. And, of course, I started laughing. And he said, what do you think was so damn funny about that game? And I'm about to cry. I'm figuring he's got me boxing my stuff up and going. And he got on me pretty good about it. And I called you right away. I'm like, dude, you've got to help me. I think I'm going to get fired. He's so mad at me right now. And anyway, you had to go in and watch the tape with him anyway, which probably wasn't much fun either. And you said something to him, and he looked at you like, what are you talking about? It was that quick. He forgot, he got it off his chest. He let it go. So sorry it was at your expense, but I sure do appreciate you bailing me out on that one.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah, that was an awful night. But obviously they had nobody else to put in with John Bob throwing 9 interceptions. That's a lot.
That is a bucket of interceptions. But I had one, doesn't quite involve Coach, but it was doing bed checks. I had some great stories doing bed checks. And Chris Doring and Danny roomed together. And I think Danny was trying to save Chris every chance he got.
No doubt.
So, of course, Danny's not anywhere to be found in the room, which I know he's hiding behind the bed. So be a smart ass. I grabbed one of those Gatorade, the plastic bottle, and flipped it over the bed. And all of a sudden I hear, oh, God, my arm. and I about passed out. I was like, I was prayerful that he would get up and walk away, but he got me good on that one.
Yeah,
And but getting back to the head ball coach, I did have a couple that I want to do. 94 at homecoming. He's got the seniors, and he's going to introduce them at Gator Growl. I got the rest of the team to the movies. So I don't know what's happened. So we come back to the hotel, we're going to snack, and coach like hollers out for me. And he's like, Jamie, you need to check the rooms every hour. I don't care how late you got to stay up. You got to check them every hour. We're not going to have any of this. And I'm looking at Malcolm, Highway Patrol, Malcolm Jowers. He's behind coach, kind of waving his hands like, I'll tell you in a second. So coach walked by and Malcolm goes, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? He goes, Willie Jack got arrested at Gator Growl. And I'm like, what? And coach is getting ready to introduce the seniors. And I guess Willie Jackson was late getting up. So he was trying to go through some barrier that he shouldn't have been going through, Willie Jack. And one of the local, whether it was university police or city police, stopped him, said, can't come this way. Well, Willie shoved the guy out of the way and walked up. He got introduced, but they were waiting for him, and they took him away after the. So we're minus Willie. Coach suspends him. We go to South Carolina the next week, and coach, it was one of the funniest things. It was when that movie came out, and this lady has a huge sign, and it says "Free Willie." I tell you what, Coach fell out of his chair on the bus looking at that thing, but we were all just dying laughing.
Well, that's good stuff, Jamie, man. Hey, I appreciate you joining the program. I know a lot of Gator fans. It was great to hear your inside take on how it was being a director of football administration for Coach Spurrier. We all love the guy, and very fortunate that he came in our lives. And I just hope you and your family are safe, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
I appreciate everything, and I want to echo that. Coach and Jerry are the best. I love them to death. So it's great being a Gator. I always will. It means so much to me, and thanks for having me on, Shane.
Absolutely. That's Jamie Speronis joining us on the Titan MRI hotline. We're going to get to This Day in Sports, which is brought to you by Best Restoration. If you have COVID-19 concerns, do what everyone is doing and hire the Best Restoration to fully sanitize and sterilize your home or office. Visit their office this week for a free bottle of hand sanitizer when you mention the code Shane. Call 352-234-8994. This day, back in 1990, Andre Dawson receives a record 5 intentional walks in a single game. Folks, we're going to take our second time out here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Jackie Spreads, who's brought to you by Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. He's going to be joined by Jackson Raymer. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Be right back.
Time out! Time out!
All right,
hey,
dude.
Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, and Davis Chevrolet.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Pod Up Show with Matthews in the Morning. I am your host for the second half of this Friday edition. Of course, my name is Jackie Spreads, and here with me today is a very good friend of mine, formerly worked for Inside the Gators, writing about Gator football, and now is out in Arizona doing great things for the Yuma Sun, a small paper out in Arizona. He covers junior college, high school, women's sports, men's sports, the whole 9 yards. His name is Jackson Raymer, and he's joining me now. Jackson, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great, Jack. I appreciate it. You allowing me to come on the show today. No sports last 2.5 months. And, we text back and forth. We got going on. It's good to be able to come on here and talk to you, especially the Luka trade debates with you today.
Right. And you and I actually, we've had even though our fan bases are in New York and Atlanta or Dallas and Atlanta, in my sense, you and I have had the luxury of having a little bit of a rivalry there. Obviously, the Mets and the Braves, but with Luka and Trey, we'll dive into that later. I wanted to start with some condolences because last Sunday was the match, driving relief match between Ricky Fowler and Matt Wolff. And then on the other side, we had Dustin Johnson and Rory McIlroy. I bet on Dustin and Rory, heavy favorites, minus 200 going in. I had 200 to win 100 on it. Horrible bet. You never want to put down that much money to win that little money. I ended up winning. And the reason I'm giving you condolences is because I've never felt bad about winning a bet until now. Jackson, take the viewers through what happened on Sunday and how you lost that bet and how it affected you.
I mean, looking at Ricky Fowler plus 160, this is kind of like his little tournament. He never wins in the PGA Tour field, so this is kind of his moment. Dustin Johnson did not want to be there. He's played one time during this, quarantine, so-called time. I was like, DJ doesn't want to show up. Ricky would probably battle his way, make some birdies, and that's what he did. And, we saw him rally back from being down 5-1. We're up late. We go to the 18th hole. I'm like, all right, just get some pars, just tie the hole. We win. Well, unfortunately, I did not realize that they would be doing a closest to the pin challenge with the 6 leftover skins. So after I already tweeted I've won my first sports bet in a few months, I am just absolutely ecstatic. I'm about to hit the golf course myself. But before I can get out the door, I got to sit here and watch this closer to the pin challenge. And, I kind of missed gambling a little bit, but after that break, I'm glad it's been gone and out of my life a little bit for the last 2 or so months.
Right, and that'll a loss like that definitely staves off the addiction. But the thing with gambling is if you lost a bet like that and there was a basketball game, you and I both know that you'd be trying to win the money back on that basketball game later that night. And that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's just the way it goes. So, again, my condolences on that horrible beat coming out of the mud. But I'm glad we at least have something to look forward to. We got another golf match on Sunday. I don't want to get too sidetracked here. I wanted to dive in a little bit of the NL East preview because sports are on the horizon. We have an announcement today. I don't know how reliable this is, but Spencer Dinwiddie, Nets guard, tweeted that the NBA should be back July 15th and practices should start June 21st. Again, I don't know how much weight that carries, but I did see it on Twitter. And in baseball, we've heard a lot about murmurs of July 4th comeback and an Independence Day opening. I think that'd be really cool, an 82-game season. And the divisions might be different, but I wanted to dive in a little bit of Mets versus Braves. Because our division, it's one of the best divisions in baseball, probably the best division in the NL, obviously has the best pitchers. I mean, we have 7 of the 10 best pitchers in the MLB in that division. I went over some stats with it. Last year, the aces from every team, except for the Marlins, we're not counting the Marlins in this. The aces from the Mets, Nationals, Phillies, and Braves had a combined ERA of 3.07. And that's just who you'd have starting on opening day, the guy with the best stuff. On the Nationals in particularly, Steven Strasburg is their ace. Patrick Corbin had a better ERA. I didn't even factor that in. This division is so deep, and people don't realize it. How much are you looking forward to this Braves season? Because you guys are supposed to be awesome again.
Yeah, back-to-back NL East titles. We haven't done that in almost a decade. Vegas, they're kind of in our favor this year. That's being the favorite to win the division. And you're talking about the NL East being the best division in the NL. It's probably the best in baseball. So last year, 4 of the 6 divisions in baseball had 2 90-win-plus teams. NL East checks off that. But the NL East was the only division to have 4 teams with a 500 or better record. Next closest was 2 divisions had 3. And mostly these divisions are top-heavy. get your bottom feeders like the Marlins, 2 teams in those in each division. But with us, I mean, it's a battle every single night. When you're playing your division 80 times a year, I mean, there's really no taking off those kind of nights.
Right, and when the Phillies go into Citi Field in September and they're a game and a half back of the Brewers for the wild card spot, it's no easy task even going against a fifth starter where you're seeing a guy like Zach Wheeler last year. I mean, he's gone, or a Marcus Stroman. I mean, and the Mets are the worst best team in the league in terms of we're always right there in third. We were 500 this year. We shouldn't have been 500. We were 12 games under at the break. Went on a huge run, won 16-17. And then had a 3-run blast in the bottom of the 10th inning for no reason to win that game by 1. I think it was against Atlanta, actually. And that was one of the best wins of my life betting-wise. I had the Mets win total over for the season. It was pushed over on a walk-off home run in the last game of the season that meant nothing. It meant something to me, but it meant nothing to everybody else. Right. So that's the beauty of gambling. And I am Jackie Spreads. People forget without sports going on, I've just been interviewing people. But, I do love sports gambling, and it's at the heart of my sports love. And I want to talk a little bit about the Mets here. I don't mean to kind of shade you off, but we were supposed to be bought out by a multi-billionaire. Supposed to have brighter days on the horizon. Oh, this guy owns a statue that's worth more than what the Wilpons have ever even paid for a contract, $114 million. I was ecstatic through the roof. I posted a Twitter video. I made an ass of myself, and I didn't care because I was so excited. Of course, Mets are going to Met. Deal falls through, and we're stuck with the Wilpons. And I saw a stat the other day that said, if the season didn't happen, or even if the season starts in July, the Mets are going to lose the third most money of any team behind the Yankees and the Red Sox. And it's about $3.2 billion in ticket sales, concession sales, all that stuff. Fred and Jeff Wilpon don't have $3.2 billion to lose, okay? So this is just Mets misery is spiraling. And we have Jacob deGrom. We have Pete Alonso. We have Yoenis Cespedes. We have very good players. Noah Syndergaard, Marcus Stroman. And their careers are all just going to go to a waste. Mets fans have to get extremely lucky to even sniff a World Series berth. I mean, you look at the 2015 year where we had an unbelievable second half. We had like a 600 win percentage in the second half. We had a guy hit 13 home runs in 11 games in the playoffs, swept the Cubs, went to the World Series, led for 91% of the innings, and managed to lose in 5 games. I mean, it's just Mets misery, and it's never going to end. Until Cleveland won a title in 2016, I would argue that the Mets were the most cursed team. I think the Browns are probably the most cursed team in sports, but the Mets are right there. And for you to have a Braves team, your struggles are a little different, where it's, you're going to be in the playoffs, you're going to be in the picture, you're set for the next 10 years. But Braves history goes back. You guys won 12 of 13 in the 90s and only got 1 ring out of it. You signed Acuna to a crime of a deal for 10 years. How do you think that these Braves can get over the hump and beat the Dodgers or beat the Brewers or the Cubs or the Yankees, Red Sox, Astros, whoever it may be?
Well, you're talking about when it's October and in Atlanta and you're playing the postseason, it's Atlanta's a place where opponents' dreams come alive. They just come in there no matter what and beat us. We saw that this year against the Cardinals. 2 years ago, 2018, Acuna's rookie year, Obbies, those kind of guys, they're 21, 20 years old. So we're playing the Dodgers. That's an understandable loss. We only got 2 games at home.
Machado was there. 3
of 5 games at home against a Cardinals team, which you're much better than them. And they come in there and produce 10 runs in the first inning. It's just heartbreaking. It's hard. We got, Brian Snicker, I don't know how you just throw Mike Soroka 1 game in a 5-game series. I mean, he's the best pitcher probably in the NL besides Jacob deGrom.
Right. I mean, yeah, Aaron Nola might have something to say about that, but it's definitely arguable there. And I like you giving deGrom the props because I would have absolutely jumped down your throat there. And anyway, I remember watching that.
More wins.
Well, come on. You saw that Twitter meme I sent a few months ago where it was the Grim Reaper behind a news reporter and he was labeled Mets bullpen and the news reporter was labeled Jacob deGrom. Because, I mean, the guy, he had an ERA under 2 in 2018 and won the Cy Young and only had 10 wins. He was 10-10. Just unbelievable statistic. And the run support by average, every other pitcher on the Mets had 3.2 or more. deGrom had 0.5 runs per game for his offense.
Getting over the hump, it's just Acuna and Albies showing up in the postseason. Freddie Freeman, I know he was a little hurt at the end of the year last year with that elbow soreness, and that didn't really help us in the middle of the lineup. We kind of struggled there. Josh Donaldson was okay. Just getting the bats of some of those young guys, getting experience. Acuna hit 444 last year in the NLDS against the Cardinals after I think he only batted like maybe 130, 135 his rookie year against the Dodgers. Just getting this early year experiences right now is all we're going through, especially the young pitching staff. I know Fulton struggled in that game 5, but if you watched him in game 2, he was unstoppable. I mean, I think he threw like 8, 9 innings. He was 7 innings, 8 innings. He was great. So I know we kind of had this history of losing in the postseason, but with some of the younger guys, and we got them for a bargain, so we got them here for a long time.
Unbelievable bargain there. And the thing with Atlanta sports is, and being a Mets fan, especially with the Braves, is I'm conditioned to hate the Braves. And when I watch games against the Mets, and it's specifically against the Mets, it's these guys will just not go away. And granted, our bullpen stinks, but they do this against every bullpen where they're down 3 runs in the 9th inning and the game is in the 12th before you know it. I mean, and I actually really, really do enjoy watching this Braves team, and that pains me to say as a Mets fan, where you have Acuna, Albies, and Swanson as your 3 – and Freeman, obviously, as your 3 young hitters, your 4 young guns there. And all those guys are electric in the batter's box and out on the diamond with a glove in their hand. So, I mean, this team is just extremely fun to watch. I love rooting for them in the postseason. I'd much rather see them win than the Phillies or the Nationals. And I'm not even going to mention the Marlins, because if they win, it'll be like, okay, let's rock the baby, and you guys can have another one in 25 years. And I shouldn't talk, because the Mets haven't won in over 30 years. So, I mean, that's the thing is with baseball, the Mets have had consistently better teams than the Marlins. However, the Marlins have never lost a playoff series, because the one time they made the playoffs, they won it all. And it's just the way baseball goes. Baseball in particular, I think its strength in the postseason is unpredictability. Where if you would have asked me as a betting man, which I am not, just kidding, I very much am, I would have bet the house on the Braves if I had to win that division. I would have bet the house on the Dodgers to win the NL. Neither of those things happened. And baseball's unpredictability is what makes its strength. You look at basketball, where this is the first year in basketball where you're not saying Warriors Cavs, Warriors Bucks, Warriors something, Warriors, you know what I mean? There's no team who's definitely getting to the World Series. And you would say, like, oh, look at this Yankee squad, there's no way they lose. Look at every Yankee squad since 2009. They've lost every time. You just don't know. And that's why, as a Braves fan like you, with this young upstart team that's very, very talented and now has a little bit of experience.
How do you lose? I mean, on paper, we're going to be the best team for the next decade in that division, most likely.
Absolutely. And that's what scares me, is if the Mets don't find this little 10-year window they had from 2015 when they made it, if they're not able to go until 2025 with Jacob deGrom's prime and at least get into the playoffs, at least win a series, give me something to cheer about, I mean, it's just never going to happen, because the way it works with small market teams, and it's really funny to say small market team when you're talking about a New York team. That's just how bad the ownership is, okay? And we are a smaller market team, even though we're in the biggest city in the world. And with small market teams, the way that happens is you develop your guys through the farm. They hit their peak with you. They hit their peak, and then their contract runs out, and a big market team throws them a bucket of money, and you never see them again, and then the process restarts. I mean, the Mets in 2006 made the NLCS. They probably should have won the World Series that year. Beltran strikes out looking down one with the bases loaded, 2 outs. Every kid dreams about, every single situation a kid dreams about. 3-2, bottom 9th, bases loaded, game 7, strikes out looking against Adam Wainwright. And 2 years later, or 4 years later, in 2009, I remember this. In 2009, SportsCenter had a not top 10 for only the Mets. For only Mets plays, not top 10 for the Mets. That's 5 years removed. Usually 5 years removed, you're seeing teams are still competitive. And it's just the way it works. And it scares me to death that we are going to waste the best pitcher of this generation's prime completely.
Yeah. And I'm thankful at least we're building around some young guys and got them locked in. And you know, we got that in Atlanta. We talk about this financial flexibility we have, and how we can maybe add another superstar in next offseason, depending on who that could be. Maybe a Mookie Betts, who I've read about, and adding him in the outfield. So as long as we got about a 10, 12-year window ourselves that's beginning right now. Started about 2018, maybe last year it really started. I'm in the same boat as you. The Braves have been dominant since the 90s. It's just getting over that hump and bringing more world titles.
At least you got the one in the 90s of your 13.
Well, I was born
pathetic ratio, but
don't even get to remember it, unfortunately.
Exactly. I mean, same. Mine was in the 80s, and the only title I've experienced in my life is the 2011 Mavs. And I'd like to go back to that a little bit. You know, you got your Trae Young jersey on. I'm rocking the little Mavs action. And what I said was, when we had a little rivalry between Dallas and Atlanta, is the Trae Young versus Luka Doncic. As most of you probably know, Trae Young was traded on draft night for Luka Doncic in a pick. That pick ended up becoming Cam Reddish. And Jackson and I, we've always had a little bit of a debate here about Trae and Cam versus Luka. Obviously, I choose Trae. He chooses the latter. Why do you think that the Hawks are better off going forward with Trae and Cam than the Mavs are with just Luka?
I just think, we got the Braves across the street that are real young. Same with the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, we got 6 guys that average double figures this year. The average age is 21 years and like 9 months. I mean, that's just absurd. 6 guys of that age. And Trae Young kind of fits into that culture, the Atlanta culture. You're selling tickets. Just kind of that offensive philosophy we try to run in Atlanta, up and down the court, don't play much defense, shoot the basketball. And I think that's just that kind of tempo fits Atlanta. That fits Trae Young game. And Luka, you got some more veteran guys over there, more experience, and he makes guys around him a lot better as well. But systematically, I think those both players kind of fit in their own little, organizations extremely well. I couldn't see Trae Young being in Dallas. I couldn't see Luka in Atlanta. It doesn't mesh well, and especially since we got Cam Reddish as well. I mean, you're getting 2 for 1, and we moved up.
Right.
A pick.
But when you say 2 for 1, is Trae a 7 and Cam a 3, where Luka's a 10, and you're kind of getting in the middle? That's the debate. And what I want to say about that is, and my response to that is, you say that Luka couldn't play well in Dallas. I agree with that, but I think that or Trae couldn't play well in Dallas, and I agree with that. But I think that you could plug Luka onto any team. I'm sure he might not be 28, 8, and 10. But he'll be very, very productive. He probably still would have won Rookie of the Year regardless of the team. I mean, the guy's a professional. He played professionally. He won a EuroLeague MVP. He's won Rookie of the Year. He's an MVP candidate this year. I just don't think that you can take a guy who I think will be a 3-time MVP in his career and trade him on draft night, no matter who it's for. If you're looking at Atlanta, they had the 3rd pick or the 4th pick. Dallas had the 5th pick. And they just kind of swapped them there for our next year's pick as well. And we took Luka, you took Trae. And I just don't think you can pass on a guy like Luka Doncic in that situation where, I mean, obviously hindsight is 2020. We weren't sure that this guy was going to be incredible, but all the signs kind of pointed to it. And again, Trae Young is phenomenal. 34% from 3 at a high volume shooting ratio, 28 points per game. I mean, he makes guys around him better. He brought the energy back to Atlanta. But the thing is, and I know it's only year 2 or year 1.5, or however we even can look at this now. I know it's only been a short time, but it hasn't translated to wins yet. And the thing with Luka is it has. We're 6.5 games over 500. And I say half because one of our games got stopped at halftime on March 11th. And I say we're 6.5 games over 500 because – and Kristaps obviously has a ton to do with this, but Kristaps missed a lot of times. He got off to a horrible start to the season, and we were still winning games, and that's obviously headlined by Luka. We'll see in the future if Trae can kind of get that together and have a squad around him. You see John Collins is a very good player. Jabari Parker is the biggest underachiever in the league, but that being said, he was expected so much. Underachieving isn't that bad. I mean, Atlanta's going to be a fun team, and I got to tell you what, man, if we're looking at 2027 Mavs-Hawks finals – and you're not there with me, we're no longer friends.
You were talking about the wins not being translated between the Hawks and Trae Young, but it has with Luka and the Mavericks. Well, Luka's supporting cast, the 3 other guys, the top scorers on the team, 28, 29, and 24 years old. And he's still got Dorian Finney-Smith, who's, up 25-ish. So he's got some veteran players, some guys that have that experience and played in a lot of big games. And that's the thing that's most important with Atlanta is just how young we are and how valuable they can be and how this is all just a learning process. We said DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Cam Reddish, Trae Young, Kevin Huerter. I mean, all these guys are under the age of 22 starting for a pretty well-known franchise. And, we talked about John Collins – averaged just over 20 points a game, under 10 rebounds. But he was suspended the first 25 games of the year. So, coming off a good year 1, winning 29 games, you're like, okay, maybe we can take the next step, win 33, 34, 35. And with Collins being gone the first 25 games, 16 of our first 25 games were against playoff teams that are the current playoff teams, I guess how you want to word it, top 8 teams in each conference. And the Mavericks just played 9 of the first 25 games were against playoff teams. So the schedule is real tough to start the year. We're trying to make that transition, adding 2 new rookies in Hunter and Reddish, and we don't have our second best player. Right. So the kind of the wins translation not happening is kind of an asterisk right there with no John Collins. But yeah, Luka, and for Luka, he makes everyone better on the team, which Trae Young is still getting there in that regard.
And Luka has unlocked the secret of basketball. And a lot of people haven't heard this, but the secret is, Isaiah Thomas said this in 2002, was the secret of basketball is you have to figure out how to make others around you better. And that's really all that matters, is if you're the best player on your team, like Trae Young is, like or Luka Doncic is, like or Isaiah Thomas was, you got to figure out, okay, I know that I can do this. How can I put these guys in position to be just as good as me? And it seems like Luka and Trae have both figured that out from a very young age, and that's scary for the rest of the league. And you said that playoff team stat there early in the season, and I don't know if it was against any Western teams or Eastern teams or what, but if you look at playoff teams in the East versus playoff teams in the West, I mean, would you rather play a 7-seeded Jazz team or a 7-seeded Nets team? Would you rather?
I'm playing the Nets anytime. Yeah, I'm not
exactly. And if you're looking at the 9th best team in that division, it'd be the Zion Williams and Pelicans. Or on the other side in the East, it would be the what is it? Who's 9th in the East? It's Charlotte. Charlotte. That's why I said Hornets. It was Charlotte.
And you got Portland in the 9th seed too, tied with the Pelicans.
So would you rather play Portland or New Orleans or Charlotte? I mean, it's just you can't really compare it. I wish they were in the same conference, and I wish that he played for somewhere like Memphis where we got to see him a bunch of times. But then again, it's great that he's on your team and the trade is there, and you and I can kind of have this spirited debate about it. And there's really no debate to be had. I think we both are in agreement that Luka's probably a better all-around player. Luka's probably more adept to winning at a younger age, but Trae has outshined his expectations. Whereas Trae's going into the draft, he's small, his IQ isn't great, he's selfish, he didn't lead Oklahoma to a lot of wins, and he shut that all up real quick, Steph Curry style, where he came into the league and he said, sure, I'm small, but I can shoot, I have a quick first step, and I have moves, and I can find people, and my IQ is high, and that's really all you need. I mean, I don't want to compare him to Allen Iverson because he's not Allen Iverson, but it's that esque, whereas he has this IQ and the swagger about him. Even though he's small, he has the skills to be dominant in this league, and that's exactly what we've seen from him.
Awesome, Jackie.